Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. James Haskell, Glenn Martin. We're excited to continue with our series of position outlooks into the 2025 season. We're going to get into potentially the most controversial one, and that is the wide receiver room. Always a lot of heat around this conversation, especially here in Baltimore. So we're excited to talk about it. Of course, we're going to give projected salary or allocated salary cap stats for 24, what we think needs to be improved upon, and what moves we think can be made. But before we do, go ahead and take a second, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and get to know more about BetOnline. Glenn, they got a lot going on, dude. What's up?
Yes, they do. And one thing that's always going to be going on over there is they are the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selections of odds on everything from NBA, college basketball to the NHL and UFC, BetOnline continues to be your number one source for online betting. From every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered from odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. And, Jimbo, you bring up that it might be the most controversial. I do think the wide receiver position every year is the side that's the most, well, I wouldn't say divided, because most of the time Ravens fans are going, we all agree, we need more.
Yeah.
But this year, I think it's pretty divided, because I think there's a large group of Ravens fans that like at least the nucleus we have here. Now, of course, we all agree that they could get better, but I think some are saying, no, we still got a lot of work to do, and others think we're a little closer than a lot of people are giving them credit for. So where do you lie currently on what you think we have going into 2025, Jimbo?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to look at this. The way that I want to look, I mean, obviously we know who the guys are. So let's talk about who we have, and then let's talk about the money allocated. And when we're talking about like, okay, this is where we are and kind of how I form my opinion. So let me share my screen real quick, and I'm going to pop up two things here, guys. I got some homemade charts, if you will, but this is incredible. But the allocation, the total allocation that the Ravens have to the wide receiver room in 2025, the upcoming season, $12.9 million. It's astonishingly low. Astonishingly low. I mean, look at that.
The position group on the team, right? On the offense, I should say.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're right.
Well, the O-line, but the O-line, that could certainly change. But yeah, that's
and I mean, if you look at it, the tight ends have basically, I mean, almost doubled it up.
Yep.
Right. They're up by 10. It's almost a double up. But as far as the specific players, this is the breakdown here. You'll see Rashod Bateman at a hair over $5 million. Zay, of course, our highest producing Pro Bowl receiver at a shade under 4 at 3.8. Tez Walker at 1.1. Anthony Miller, who we saw make an appearance in the playoff, at 1 million. Malik Cunningham is under $1 million at 960,000, and Dayton Wade is the lowest at 840,000. So we have our top two guys. And you can see how the dollars are allocated. But then we have a pretty steep drop-off in experience, league production, proven assets, and as far as making plays on an NFL roster, right? Like, I think the most is probably Anthony Miller, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the oldest of that crew, of that bottom four, and we saw him in the playoffs, and then I guess Tez Walker behind it. But my point is, incredibly much less experienced and really just guys for the time being. So first thing I want to say, Glenn, is from a dollar perspective, we ain't doing bad.
No.
I mean, if you talk about Rashod Bateman, I think is a bona fide 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Zay Flowers is a bona fide 1. I mean, he's a Pro Bowler.
He's at very least a 2, a 1B. Like he's.
Yeah. I mean, of course, in other teams, he's going to be a 2.
Yeah.
But we ain't other teams.
No.
Especially in the wide receiver position. Now, let me ask you, were you shocked that this number is this low? Like, I mean, we all kind of knew, but you see it on paper and you're like, wow.
To see it on paper, it's jarring. I think we're going to get into a different group, at a different time. But I think it's shocking to see that wide receiver and O-line are the two least expensive groups. We typically keep 6, and then we keep 10 offensive linemen, and 10 offensive linemen totaled less than what the investment expected for Derrick Henry next season alone.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple shockers there, but yeah, I mean, it's clear the Ravens are having an advantageous contract with both Zay Flowers for his production, but that 5th year ain't going to be cheap. You got to believe it with the Pro Bowl nod. And then the great deal now, as it turns out to be, with Rashod Bateman. 3-year deal. He's going into, I think, his second year of that. So he'll have 2 years left unless that was an extension that I'm missing a year. But both those deals look pretty good.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. It's like, it's a shame that we didn't get to see a lot of Tez Walker, because I don't know if we got to see, like, do we know what we got in him? It's kind of like when the Steelers, they're talking about what do we do with our quarterback position in Justin Fields. It's like, well, you didn't really give him enough chance to see what you got in him. So you still don't really know what you got with Justin Fields. If you would have stuck with him all season, at least you know what you got in the guy.
Yep.
That is kind of the case with Tez Walker. It's like, we saw so little of him as an offensive player. Again, he had 1 catch. It was a 21-yard touchdown, little toe drag in the back of the end zone. Nice play. But and while I'm optimistic, like, what type of expectation can you have? Because third receiver is an important position in today's NFL. Can they count on anything from Tez Walker?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Glenn, I don't have an answer right now. The way that I see this group, we talked about the 3 categories in the running back video. If you haven't seen it, go back and check it out. But do you stand pat with this group and let them develop? Do you look outside in the draft or free agency? And now it's escaped him what our third option was.
Well, stand pat, upgrade, or complete and total revamp.
Oh, right. Like a straight up rehaul, right?
Yeah.
But I do think it's crazy because I'm normally not this guy, but I am beating the drum here. We need to do something. We need to do something because Zay went down last game of the season, and that certainly had a factor in our playoff run.
No doubt.
Right? I mean, so and this is not a knock on Rashod Bateman. I mean, he played well, but certainly this is an issue and something we need to address. I mean, I don't think that the way the league is going, we can continue to invest this little in that group.
Yeah,
I'm not saying we need to go crazy, but
financially,
yeah, we need to do something here.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely spent draft picks in recent years, but we know the Ravens are not going to be a big time spender in free agency, especially at wide receiver. They may attack a guy, on day one of free agency that they feel is a difference maker, but it's just almost never been at receiver unless it's more of a bargain shopping, a veteran guy who maybe is disgruntled, like a Steve Smith Sr. But I will say, I think Zay Flowers gets even better next year. 116 targets. I think he probably gets a touch more than that next year, and I think he goes over 1,200. I think we'll get our money's worth with our first 2 guys. But I'm sorry, as much as I have optimism around Tez, I can't count on it. There's no way I can count on it. And I think this receiving group, while has a good 2 to start, I think it's really missing a key position. Let me see here. And that is that big, physical, move the chains outside receiver. We keep trying to kind of use that position or make that position be a tight end. I don't want to do that. I want to get a receiver to be that guy. And here's why, Jimbo. I'm going to throw it up now to throw up our PFF grades from our receiving core last season. And you can see Zay, 16th rated receiver in the league. That's pretty damn good. I saw he was 1 notch ahead of Terry McLaurin. If you're ahead of Terry McLaurin in my book, you're doing something very, very right. So I feel okay about that. I think Rashod Bateman's better than the 48th receiver, and I think he showed it at the end of the season and in the playoffs. But we need to see more consistently, at least in the initial part of the season. Tylan Wallace, he's a free agent now. I'd be okay, I guess, with him but it doesn't make me think we're any closer to winning to having Tylan Wallace here. And then we know what happened with Deontay. So here's the reason why I think we need to make a decision on getting a bigger, more physical. If I just take our team out and sort it by all 32 teams, look at who's in the top. Look who's the top rated guys in the league. Puka Nacua, tough guy, makes the dirty catches. Nico, maybe he's the outlier, but I think, certainly he's one of the best receivers and maybe the most underrated. Mike Evans, tough guy, catches that slant. Doesn't matter what you're going to do. A.J. Brown, same thing. You can't stop this dude from catching a 6-yard slant on 3rd and 4. There ain't shit you can do about it. And you can't stop him on Ra either. And T. Higgins is a big, strong guy who can make 50-50 ball catches. Drake London the same way. What can't the next 2 guys do? Chris Godwin, the best slot receiver in the league last year. Like, we need a big slot receiver who can get the damn ball no matter what if they say, we know you're running a slant, he goes, guess what? I'm going to still get inside and I'm going to make this catch and you're going to have to tackle me after. Good luck. I want that. Like, we missed it for years. I don't think we've had that since Anquan Bolden left. And how many freaking years has that been?
Yeah, and honestly, I would point to the tight end room and say, Glenn, calm your nerves. But we saw how that went in the playoffs. So yeah, I'm not riding with that answer anymore, as I have for years. But I'm off it. And look, I know we'll talk about this another time if free agency's around the corner, but I don't know, man. Look, the Ravens could make a splash. Maybe a Bengal. Maybe T. Higgins could end up in Baltimore, dude. Just, be a little spiteful.
Oh, man.
Get to play his team,
too. Imagine adding a T. Higgins type player to this group.
Look out, bro. Look out. Yeah. But I think we are in agreement that whether it's the draft or in free agency, the Ravens cannot stand pat with this room.
No.
They need it's grossly underinvested in if you look at the rest of the league.
Yeah.
This is not a Greg Roman offense. Lamar is throwing the ball all over the place. So we need to invest in this room. I understand being smart financially. We got great returns on investment from Rashod and from Zay, and I get that. But we need to do more. I think that's look. I would give this group. I don't know what you give this group as far as 2024's grade. I give them like a B+, A-. Talking about dollar return on investment, you got to give it an A. But I can't grade him as high as the running back room. I mean, Derrick Henry was the all-pro.
Yeah, it's hard. It's just hard to give these guys bad grades when we were the first. We were, one of the top offenses and number one in yards per attempt through the air. So they're pretty good. But now we're grading just the receiving core, and that includes the pass catching tight ends, the pass catching running backs. When you talk about our pass offense in total, but yeah, I think they have a good foundation, but they're missing a very key cog in this link here. I think they got to get a big receiving threat who has some physicality to him.
Let's go, man. I'm with you there, Glenn. I'm looking forward to it. Last question for this: do the Ravens do it?
Oh yeah, they do it. They've no team has drafted more receivers since Derek DeCosta has taken over than the Ravens. So I think they continue to add through the draft. Do they do it through free agency? Jimbo, they don't. They don't. They're never going to get in a bidding war for a receiver in free agency. When you look at these guys getting $30+ million a year, they're not going to do it. As much as everybody wants T. Higgins or one of those other guys, I don't think it's happening. But in the draft, absolutely, one of their picks will be a receiver.
Let's go. You guys heard it. You guys heard it here first. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Like I said at the beginning, we're going to continue on with this series. We'll see you back here soon. That's it.
You got to trust me. Pull up in a big truck, big trust. Yeah, that's power. Never let it try me. I power out with the shootout and ride for a hobby and rock.